right. So welcome to the Swan Suite. Thank you for joining us this month for laughter and empowerment as we discuss sexuality and self-enrichment. So grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast. This episode was written and produced by the talented Headley of 2021.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Swan Suite. My name is Di'Jhon Elexis McCoy, aka number 5, Teresa Graves from the talented 10 line of 2021.
And I am Nia Meeks, number 7, Heather Headley from the talented 10 line of 2021. And here we are also joined by Miss Yolanda Jack. Miss Jack, would you please introduce yourself and your legacy name?
Peace, everybody. Avid and all to the Mers. What's up? I am Beth-Ann Hardison, diva number 2 on the Peter Pan line, Tinkerbell, ... And then there were 3 line from 1993. I am Beth-Ann Hardison, and I am so happy to be sitting here with my sister.
And we are also joined by some of our lovely line sisters. Mers, could you please introduce yourself?
I am Ayana Fowler, number 4 on the talented 10 line, legacy name Beverly Todd.
Hello. My name is Monique Barnes. I'm number 10, i.e. Jada Pinkett Smith on the talented 10 line of 2021.
Lovely. Now that we're all settled and acclimated, let's jump right into the tea, shall we? Alrighty, Miss Jag. So,
yes.
How does this principle, being sexuality and self-enrichment, apply to you in the phase of this life that you are in?
Being in my 50s, it is awesome. It is amazing. It is 2 separate things. I think when I was younger, they were lumped into one because just how my mindset, my maturity level had developed into that point. But I understand that self-enrichment, being an only child, I understood self-enrichment well before I understood sexuality, because as an only child, you get treated differently. The attention is on you differently. It's a different kind of vibe. So I was able to, as an individual, be able to appreciate and see the differences between myself and even my cousins who had siblings, or my friends who had siblings, and understand what self-fulfillment looked like for them versus what it looked like for me. That I was regularly able to be fully satisfied and fully happy with my environment and my surroundings because it was often created for me in a way that it wasn't for others. And the sexuality aspect of it, I had to growing into my life, growing into adolescence and into my sexual awakening, it became a different kind of a level of importance. The importance of it wasn't there until after I became a married woman, and the significance of the importance of it didn't dawn on me until after I became a married woman. When you're in your 20s or your teens, you're trying to get that first come. Then after you find it and you chasing it. So, but what honestly became important for me, because my sexual awakening wasn't intentional. I was brought to sex before I was supposed to be brought to sex, meaning I was molested. And so I had a whole nother kind of introduction to a sexual life. But because God is amazing and I had an awesome village around me, I was able to forgive and not walk in shame or in I didn't carry it with me. The perpetrator was completely dealt with, and the circumstances of my safety was not at risk anymore. And so I was able to develop fully. And even though aspects of my life, somebody might say I wasn't whole, I didn't feel that way. So when I walked into my sexuality with my own intention, I had a different mindset because I was like, yo, this is me. I'm about to go do this. And sex is fun and sex is interesting and sexuality and the conversations around it, they're all titillating. And so I had to appreciate the surface. And then as I got into my married life, I understood that there are levels and layers and textures and depths and colors and, audio aspects of sound that are of sex that are really that just do things that a 20-year-old can't even appreciate.
Well, all right. Shoot. Okay. So going on to this next aspect. In what ways have you struggled with this principle?
My struggle, I think, might have been when I realized that I could not hold on to shame that wasn't mine to own. My struggle came when, so that was one struggle. And other struggle, maybe about 5 or 7 years ago, was as I moved through like motherhood and into perimenopause, and how my body is different now than it was when I was tight and toned and 20. And I keep saying that because like that time frame is so important, and it means so much. However, when you turn into your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, and I'm looking forward to my 60s, having ebbs and flows of sexual desire. So a struggle for me was definitely an ebb in my sexual desire. It was not strong, and my husband was looking at me like, "Yo, what the fuck?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And we were like looking like it was, we've had these conversations like, like we going, because this is an important aspect. We're human, so therefore we're sexual beings. And I just said 5 seconds ago, sex is fun. So like, why would I hold somebody hostage with something? And I shouldn't, particularly if I love them and if I'm trying to create a life with them. So it became an important conversation to discuss. So even with the struggle, it is still a part of your life. And then watching my children become sexual beings, whether they're actually sexually active, or walking into that like awareness of their own sexuality. These are, all of them have been levels of success and struggle.
Okay, gotta derail for a second because this question is in my brain. It's pressing me to ask. How do you go about, or how did you go about healing after having that encounter where someone took something from you when they didn't necessarily have that permission to? And not only in just that sense, but just like dealing with different sexual partners and knowing that like they are having some sort of sacred part of you type of thing. How do you go about healing your body after that?
I don't know how to say this except for to just say it. I was 3 when it happened, so I was too young to really understand what the real deal was. But when I learned what was happening, like I had to learn what happened to me in order to learn forgiveness, in order to learn, like I had to be taught shame in order to realize that I was supposed to be ashamed of what happened to me. And then, what else? And because, like I said, God is awesome. My ancestors, I believe strongly in my ancestors and my connection to my ancestors, and spirit. And so when I was a little girl, like I used to hear my ancestors applaud for me when I would be in the mirror singing and stuff. Like I would hear applause, and my mother be like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Don't you hear them play for clapping?" She like, "No, baby, I don't hear them clapping." But but with that, I never received that as a scary thing or as a bad thing. In fact, I didn't even know that they were ancestors until I was taught that we have connections. So I released the shame because it was never mine. I didn't own it. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I don't know how to say that other than to say it like that. And as I got older and I was taught shame and taught to be shameful, when I did have it on me, I realized the wrongness of it, so that the ability to shed it became easier. As much as people wanted to try to burden me with it, and my willingness to accept it, or my complicitness in and accepting it, like there would be levels of that and aspects of that over, when I was 10, when I was 12, when I was 13, when I was 15, when I was 17, like it would change. So I don't know that I had a specific thing to do with losing the shame. I know that it wasn't mine, so I didn't carry that shit. And then when they were trying to make me carry it, I realized this isn't mine. So I don't want to carry it. And the other part of it is, if you want to heal, if you want to find healing in yourself, you have to be honest about it. You can't say, I want to heal, and then go back and seek out the injury.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, sorry. You shook the table with that one, Miss Jack. I'm just telling you, just shaking the table. Shaking the table.
That was a word I needed to.
A word, honey.
That was the one.
Process that real quick. I might have to go to immediate care after this.
Listen, call me 313-207-8538. That's my telephone number. Yep, I put it in them conversations so y'all can call me. Who are you watching it today? You watching it tomorrow? You watching it next year? You watching it on the line and you ain't even a diva yet? 313-207-8538. That number has not changed and will not change.
Love that.
That's how I roll.
And I love that. I'll be calling you this week. Next question.
I'm up late.
Okay. Do you have any advice for a fellow artist when it comes to this principle?
Because we're Black women, because we're artists, because we're performers, we're dancers, we're singers, we're sexy AF. We walk in, they see our asses, they see our stomachs, they see our hair, they see our lips. They don't know what the fuck to do with us. So we walk in as sexy. Own it. I can't not be sexy. I cannot not be who I am. Now, my reaction to you being sexy is my responsibility. Your reaction to me being sexy is you. If you can't handle me, I'm sorry. But I'm not going to give my sexuality to you. I'm not going to pimp myself for you. I am not going to put myself in a position where I feel unsafe or uncared for or unsatisfied if I'm trying to get with somebody. And oh, you look good. I'm not I'm a heterosexual. So if I see him, yo, you fine. I want to see what you're doing. Let's go, let's have this conversation. Like, let's be honest. Since I was 15, since I used to work at Planned Parenthood, I worked at Planned Parenthood. And so one of the things that I learned while I was at Planned Parenthood is you got to be honest. You got to be clear. You got to tell a motherfucker what it is. And no uncertain terms. When I was in my freshman year at Howard University, they tried to gang rape me. I fought them. There was no raping that night. Because what is mine is mine. And and what does Intozaki say? I'll give it to you, but you got, I'll give it to you. You could have had it. But instead of trying to steal my shit, you're going to, I would have gave it to you. Just ask. So that's real. And so we have to come to a decision. How do we walk in the world? How do we be in the world? When I walk into a room as an auditioner, as a person doing an interview, as a woman walking in, I got a question. I have to walk in this world with this breast, with this ass, with this crazy mohawk hair. They see this bald, exotic Black woman. What do we do? You look, appreciate me. I'm Yolanda Jack, and no, I can't fuck with you because I'm actually interested in somebody else. So you can fantasize, use your imagination. but that's not for you. I'm not for you. And put those barriers up. Make it clear and know in your own self, under no circumstances will I cross this. Or if I'm about to cross this, understand that this is what you're doing. Do not, anything that anybody does to you is something that you let them do. Right? So we have to be very, very careful as Black women, because they want to victimize us. We've been historically victimized. They want to own us. We've historically been owned. They want to write us. We've historically been defined. So here we have to come to a point in time in our lives. When do we decide for ourselves? Is it 2022? Is it 2024? Is it 1988? You know what I'm saying? Like, when do you decide? And it may not have been decided yet for you. But when you get to that decision, how do you decide and how do you stand on it? Is that the hill that you're going to die on? Is it worth it? That's the advice that I have. Question yourself, challenge yourself, stand up, and whatever your standards are, check in with them. Establish them, and don't let nobody move them. Don't let nobody move your standards for you. I promise you they will. They'll try. You ain't lived that long, and I promise you've had somebody meet you doing that. So just, and it's not going to get easier. The stakes are going to get higher. It's going to be more involved. It's going to get more critical. It's not going to be less ever. So we gotta stay for real for ourselves, to ourselves, with ourselves.
That was it. That was it. Thank you. I guess the next question would be, speaking on artistry, has a diva sister in particular, like, what is the best advice you've gotten from a diva sister, whether about your artistry or whether about this principle?
It wasn't about artistry directly, but my sister Erica Vaughn told me, she watched me walking on the yard one day, and normally I wouldn't do this, but for whatever reason I had my head down, and I wasn't walking in presence. Whatever it was, I was thinking about something. I don't know. I remember this moment because I was on the yard. I just left for fine arts and was coming down the stairs and was on my way down to I was on my way to the valley, in fact. And she walked up to me, she's like, and she walked up to me inches from my face. Hold your head up. Whenever you walking anywhere, and she looked me in my face, you better look like somebody's waiting for you. Because if someone sees you walking and they look like you look like, ain't nobody waiting on you on the other side of that walk, they're going to take you or going to try to take you. Look like you got someone waiting on you. Look like you got somewhere to be whenever you out. Because that's the way they judge you. And I know it's true because walking down Georgia Avenue some months later, and even in years since then, a brother stepped to me and he looked at me. It's like, oh, I can't fuck with you. You kind of real. So I'm gonna, like, he said that to me. Actual words out of his mouth. And I was like, okay. I'm glad you recognized that. I didn't even know what I had. I was like, okay. But that's real. And evil knows who evil can try. So if you got it on you and you walking in it and you're a diva, so you must. So then there should be no confusion. There should be no question whether you are a Christian or not. Someone is waiting for you. You belong to someone. So the Christian word is, know whose you are, but know whose you are, right? Whether I'm a Christian or not, I belong to somebody. And when I'm out in the street, somebody's expecting me to come home or to get to stage manage the show or to get to the call or to get to the grocery store or to get to cook dinner or whatever. There's an expectation. So you gotta walk like you care. So that was the advice that I got from Erica Vaughn. I will never forget it.
I love that piece of advice. I love that. And I'm going to take that for myself because I need that some days. Just something
Because
about
you
when you
forget.
walk in.
You can forget.
You
You
really
tired.
do.
You come out the audition. You come out rehearsal. You tired. You beat down. You got that bag and it's raining and the thing. And meanwhile, the devil's like, oh, can I get help?
Around. All right. Oh my gosh. You just blow my mind right now. I'm just so happy you're here. Okay.
I'm happy to be here.
What is your legacy and how are you working toward it?
My legacy is multiple. I am a connector. I am a networker. I am a theater practitioner. I'm a storyteller. I'm a parent. I'm an educator. So in all of those ways, I have legacies. Being a theater worker, we're telling stories. We're putting up shows. People gonna remember that. Being an educator at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, where I work on a regular basis, being the manager for community engagement there, that legacy is there in terms of educating and connecting people to the history and making sure that knowledge gets disseminated out into the community. Being a parent, well, obviously. And so, so I have multiple things that I'm working on, and I have a lot of ways that I want to be remembered as it relates to when my physical portion is gone. I want people to remember me. I want them to remember my love. I want them to remember my silliness. I want them to remember I could cuss a motherfucker up and down away. I want people to remember that, as much as I am wild and crazy and a heathen and all of those things, you know, when it's time to get down and get close to God, when it's time to remember what's important, when it's time to get to the academics, these are the things that are important. So that's my legacy, and those are the things that I'm working for.
That's great. That's beautiful. So in this portion, following your response, Ms. Jack, Mers, feel free to chime in with your own definitions as well. But so what does your own personal version of sexuality and self-enrichment, like what does that mean to you?
It means that I am wholly myself and I am full of confidence that I'm in the right place. Being a sexual person, being sexually engaged with somebody, having a partner, or being a sexual being, having yourself as a partner. These are aspects of and important. You have to be clear. You have to be, understanding of what position you are right now. It's funny. It means a lot to know that when I was a single woman, it was hard. It's hard being single. HIV/AIDS was just coming along and getting like really kind of a lot of things was going on. We got the new strain of herpes, like gonorrhea was like it was a lot going on in the 80s and into the 90s. So there was a lot of fear going around. I was I was sincere in the fact that I never wanted to have fear around my sexuality. Having the fact that it already started in such a questionable way in my life. So intention became very, very important. Intention. And so it is important. It has a level of importance. And the fact that I'm fulfilled means so much. The fact that I have a fulfilling relationship. I am fulfilled sexually. Like I told my husband I was going, he's like, oh yeah, we can. I'm like, no, baby, that's not the conversation we're having. But, but that's a part of it, right? Being able to fully express yourself without concern. Like, I don't have to worry about that cellulite. Am I going to be worried about that, whatever? Am I going to be, he not looking at me, or I'm not concerned about how I look in or how I look when, or when, you've got to have a level of confidence, and that confidence doesn't come until you're honest with yourself. You can't be confident in a lie. I mean, you can try, but it's not going to work. Like, how many times have you caught somebody lying? They wrong and strong, telling a lie, but you see it. So you can't do, or you can, but it is unhealthy to attempt to do that to yourself, with yourself. And because, as we said at the beginning, sex is so big, it's such a big issue, it's such a big part of our lives, especially when we're in college and we're practicing adulthood and we're just getting into this, independent role. Like, all of these things, wow, it's so big, it's so much. So you've got to really understand where you are. You've got to be mentally, you got to be in tune with yourself. You can't lie to yourself. You can't pretend that everything is cool when it ain't. You ain't gonna never bust that nut. Because you ain't relaxed, you ain't confident, you're not there. It won't, and when it comes, it will ring false. So you've got to truly, truly understand who and what you are, where you're going. And so that's why people shouldn't have sex before they're, they say married, but you want to get to some place to a person, like we talk about all the time. When time you bone somebody, you sharing yourself with that person and everybody else that they've been with. How many orgies you want to have?
You know what? Look, that brings me into the next question anyway, before our time runs out, because oh my gosh. So the next question is, what advice do you have for young people who are currently trying to explore their sexuality and have to deal with the weight of the world on their shoulders while they do so?
First of all, you don't deal with the weight of the world on your shoulders while you're dealing with your sexuality.
Bing bong. It's giving F them.
I know
you can't. I mean, because you cannot, or you can, but it won't work. Like, you can try to make it jive, but it doesn't work. I can't be with a person intimately in that space worried about somebody's judgment of how I'm boning, or who I'm boning, or where I'm boning, or what position I'm boning. Like, I can't, what part of that are you going to enjoy? So for people who are exploring, if you are inquisitive, if you have questions for yourself, first, before you go and try to connect with some other, answer that question for yourself. Understand where that is for you first, because then you can bring yourself fully and wholly to the interaction and to the interlude with the individual. And that is a much more mature way of behaving. We are not mature people. We do not deal with sex in a mature way. We are very gimme, more, mine. And it doesn't work. It hasn't worked. We've seen it. And the other thing is, other advice that I would give is, you ain't got to do it. Sometimes you could just watch somebody else go through the bullshit. You ain't got to experience it all. You can just, and I told my daughter throughout her middle school and high school years, baby girl, you ain't got to go. Just look at your friends. Watch what they doing. Watch what they going through. Some of them ain't your friends. Watch the girls. She was on dance team, right? So, just look and see. You can learn from observation. You ain't got to go eat the fat meat to find out it's greasy.
And that's where I want to leave that right there, because that was a good one. That was a good one. And I'm going to take that, and it's going to be on Twitter. It's going to say, via Miss Yolanda Jack.
Wow, that was it. That was
well, lady, look, I'm like shook.
No, that was it. I might. Yeah, you might want to copyright that one. That was
no, for real. Do that, man.
All right, man.
Well, ladies, I could sit here and chat with you all day, but unfortunately,
Indeed.
we are out of time. Thank you so much to our Diva sisters, especially to you, Miss Jack, for joining us today for our podcast. It was such an amazing time talking with you. And
I
to
love
our
you all.
listeners, love you too. And to our listeners out there, thank you so much for listening to the Swan Suite. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, like us on Facebook at HUDiva Inc. That's HUDIVAINC. Also, if you are more of a visual person, subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch this episode of the Swan Suite. Until next time, peace. Ave.
Ave.
Love y'all.
Ave.
Uh,
Love you,